All right, guys, I wanted to hop on here and talk about not what I've been getting challenged with, but just what I've heard in the last 6 to 8 months very frequently. Like, stop saying you're in 1,000 calorie deficit if you're still overweight or fat. You might be, definitely, sure. But I mean, what are you trying to flex on people that you're cutting so hard and you're gonna yo-yo? And it's almost like saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna fail. Check me out." So stop saying that. We need to reframe that thought process that the steeper of a deficit you're in is not the better. If you can lose weight on a 50 calorie a day deficit, why not? You know, why do people drop their calories so low is beyond me. Mainly they get addicted to the scale number. That's something we could go over here. It's in the beginning, I'd say I was definitely concerned about the scale weight more than I should have been. I won't say I was like freaking out about it, but I know a lot of people are anxious and don't like stepping on the scale. So when they step on the scale, they want it to be lower and lower and lower. It's just they're so focused on the number, and I really don't know why, but they're so focused on the number and losing 20, 30, 50, whatever it is, when you might be putting a little bit of muscle on at the same time and you're burning fat. You know, that's contrary to popular belief. You can do that at the same time, so you might just kind of do this, but that's why we take pictures so you can see the difference. And take waist measurements too, if you don't believe me. Take waist measurements like right around your love handles every morning and go in a deficit. And do that between pictures and the scale weight. I'll give you the full picture. You're just going on the scale weight and just starve yourself and sit in the sauna. Absolutely, you'll be less on the scale. But do we want to burn all that muscle off, or do we want to keep the muscle we have, burn the fat off, and look as best as possible? And a lot of us have bulked for a long time. I was in a 2-3 year perma bulk before I decided to lose weight and cut any amount of fat down. So if that's you, the last thing you want to do is burn up a lot of that muscle you spent years putting on. That's not to say freak out and worry about muscle loss, but that's a whole other conversation. But be cognizant or be conscious of the fact that you could potentially burn some of the hard work that you put into your physique if you cut too steep. 1,000, 1,200. I mean, if you cut that low, you will lose the weight 100%, but you're going to reset your metabolism and your leptin and ghrelin signaling to such a low baseline that it's impossible for you to stay there. Not only is your metabolism depleted so much and downregulated so much, as your body is very, very insulin sensitive when you have cut for that long. Meaning any nutrients you intake or anything you take, your body's much more apt to store as body fat because it's been in a starvation mode for so long. It's been studied, you can look that up. It's kind of like muscle memory in the sense the body can put fat back on like 3 times the rate at which you lost it the first time, or even the second time. A lot of people yo-yo their whole life, and each time they go and lose weight, it gets harder and harder and harder. It's an extensive process. Your kidneys got to filter all those toxins. Your liver's got to filter all those toxins. And the body doesn't want to do that over and over and over again. It's like storing a bunch of toxins for a while and then making your kidneys and liver completely filter it. Then you gain the weight back and then you do it again. You gain the weight back and you do it again. And then people wonder why dialysis is so popular nowadays. Could be that. There's a lot of bodybuilders that retire, and I mean, losing muscle and losing size is good for the kidneys, but if you flash lose it, all that breakdown of amino acids and nitrogen and just all that acid breakdown tossed on the kidneys are kind of like a coffee filter, if you can picture that. You know, so if you a couple drops of water on the coffee filter, it's gonna just slowly disperse and flow through it. But if you go ahead and you take a giant Yeti cup and you dump it on the coffee filter is probably going to rip open, right? It's a decent way to look at it, but the kidneys are pretty sensitive in that sense. That's why a lot of blood pressure issues can come from kidney problems, because the kidneys stress out. So the coffee filter's got so much pressure built up on it that the filtration circulation rate is much lower. It is actually glomerular filtration rate that they measure through blood work. You can pretty much see how efficient your kidneys are at processing and filtering out all the junk and bullshit we eat on a day-to-day basis. But the fat loss is the one that I would not caution you, but it's not good for your body at all to yo-yo. So these back to my 1,000 calorie point, it is the lower we can cut, or the lower calorie deficit we can have and still lose weight on, the better. And by losing weight, losing fat. So the calipers, just get one of those like loose measurement, what are they called? Or you could just take a rope and just make a mark on it, and then next week make another mark on it, and then see your weight getting lower and lower, even though the scale number might not be changing. Because if you go from completely sedentary Joe doing nothing, and then you 3 times a week you're weightlifting and you're eating correctly and you're doing cardio, your body's going to be all up and down, left and right while it's adjusting to all this, because it's never experienced resistance training at this intensity level, let alone correctly and consistently, plus the cardio, plus the diet on top. So you would expect to lose weight right away because that's your goal. But the body might be like, well, we're not in an extreme calorie deficit, so let's put a little muscle on here first, while we lose the water weight, just because you're cleaning up the food and you're not eating McDonald's and drinking every weekend. So the water retention is going to go away. You'll see 8 to 10 pounds of water retention maybe go. And then some of that water might get pulled intramuscularly, because as you train the muscle, the signaling for glycogen retention is extremely high, so you're going to pull much more water into the muscle tissue. So that 8 to 10 pounds of water weight, 2 pounds of fat loss, 6 pounds of muscle gain, you might only be like 3 pounds down on the scale. Like, I'm doing all the right things, but look at the pictures. How much is your waist? Like, what is that measurement? There's more than just the scale number, and that can drive you crazy. And that's why these GLPs are pretty popular nowadays, because it's you're losing fat and muscle. Just strip it all off. Even bone mineral density, for fuck's sake. Yeah, just strip it all off. It's almost like you're trying to launch something super heavy into outer space, and you got to figure out how to strip all the pieces off of it. So you're like, all right, let's take the seats out. Let's take some of the accelerator out. Let's take some of these cable strippers out. All right, cool, perfect. You're pretty much doing that to your body, and you're setting yourself up for, if you're over the age of 50, and you're on that stuff, and you're real skinny, necks in here and like pulled in, sucked. Yeah, you're one fall away from, could be the end of it. So I would probably get banned for talking shit about GLPs, but I don't care. I think they'll be the next Oxy. They'll get sued for billions upon billions, but they make way more. Like the Oxy lawsuit was, I don't know, they sued him for like $8.6 billion for Oxycontin, and like pushing it all and paying doctors to push it. Ton of money, billions of money. And then you do the math on how much they actually profited from the Oxy push, and it's almost in the trillions. It's close to it's like $970 something billion, and they paid an $8.4 billion fee. Ooh. So if you made $1 million, it's like paying $2,000. Yeah, something to think about. So a lot of these awesome drugs are not awesome. I'll say that, but GLPs aside, yeah, your 1,000 calorie a day deficit is killing you, bro. Stop. Reintroduce food, probably from carbohydrates. If you have your calories and you have your protein and your fats dialed in, increase carbohydrates a little bit. bring back that food. You'll feel better. Your energy levels will be better. So you'll probably be able to walk around, burn more steps. So most times you increase by 400 calories, you have the fucking energy to move your hands around and talk and do stuff. And then unless you're just burning an extra 400 or 500 calories at rest, because you feel better on a day-to-day basis. Your hormones are more in line. You're not crashing everything out. You're not redlining adrenal fatigue. I'd say 8 out of the 10 guys I recently took on, I've increased their calories. They've come to me with a weight loss goal. Yeah, we want to lose weight, want to lose fat, absolutely. And the caloric intake's much higher because most people are doing 1, 2, 3 meals a day. Shit food. If you average that out, that's not 2,000 calories, just shy, maybe a little bit more. I guess it depends on where you're eating, but most guys are sub 2K, sub 3K. And then if you increase protein slightly and you add real meals in, chicken and rice, vegetable, chicken and potato, vegetable, steak, fruit, that's like the volume they're eating is so much more than what they used to eat. They're like, wow, I'm eating so much food and I'm losing weight. How is that possible? Well, it's on a caloric level, you're eating right about the same, maybe a little bit more, 200-300 calories more, but it's whole foods. They're bigger meals. They're, instead of your 3 meals a day, the same calories can be split over 6 meals a day with much more volume. So you're satiated all day long and your body's healthy, your body's happy, your hormones are starting to come back to life a little bit. Most of us are probably depleted, been in that 1,000-1,200 calorie day deficit for a long time, right? So if that's starting to ring a bell, I think you should bump your calories up a little bit and try it, if you're tracking it at least. If you're not tracking it and you're just haphazardly tossing around you're in a crazy calorie deficit because you don't eat anything, then yeah, track it, see where you're at. Especially if you're still fat, there's a reason you shouldn't be still fat if you're in that much of an energy deficit. And another topic on that is if you undereat all week long, or say Monday through Friday, obviously the rebound, the binge eating that can happen. It's like the floodgates open, right? But if you say overeat, you eat too much, so you go 1,000 calorie deficit 1 week every day, and then the next week you're 1,000 calories surplus every single day because you drove your ghrelin leptins, or your ghrelin signaling into the ground the first week, and now it's sky high the second week, right? And then okay, you eat a ton of food, so naturally the second week your body's able and doesn't really need that much food because it just was in a week-long surplus. So then for the next week, you're not only are you like, fuck, you know, I'm emotional about this and that because I just overate. So now you're gonna be like, I need a super steep deficit. So you go back into a super steep deficit, and then starts the 1 week deficit, another week surplus, another week deficit. And if you really don't keep an eye on your weekends, that's where it adds up. It's the drinking, it's the, I don't know, what's one shot's like 120 calories or something like that. If you're under the age of 28, you're probably doing more than a couple of shots every weekend. So that's a big one. But again, the flop back, and you're like, I don't eat anything all day long. It's like, yeah, you don't eat anything all day long, but you don't track the gas station snacks, you don't track the sauces or the oil, you don't track the giant meal you eat when you get home, plus the dessert, plus whatever snacks you're eating before you go to bed. All these little things we don't keep an eye on. And I'm not like tracking macros, let's like send me pictures of you. I'm not that crazy about it, but tracking and like at least having a meal plan to follow will give you an idea and keep you in the game, is what I like to say. And you're like, all right, how many grams of protein's in this? Even just thinking that, it has you in the game. You know, you're conscious of the food choices you're making and the strides you're making towards your goals. And when you're just free flying, it's very difficult because you'll you'll be in a deficit for the first 12 hours of the day, but what about the next 12 hours? And like I said, it's all on a weekly basis, weekly total. So if you, Monday through Friday, you're 1,000 calorie deficit, great, that's 5,000 calories you managed to burn. And then Sunday comes around and you eat 6,000 calories worth of whatever, or it's all gone, restart. Then that appetite spike probably leads you into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and yeah, like I said, you're back and forth and back and forth. And so stop saying you're in a 1,000 calorie deficit. It's not a flex at all, and we all know what that leads to. We all know, well, if you don't know what we do now, that is a great way to set yourself up for failure. We want to arrive at the weight loss, at the, I don't know what I'm trying to say. We want to arrive at the physique. This is completely butchered. I'm not even going to edit it, but we want to arrive 20, 30 pounds lower, like let's say 6-8 months from now, happy, healthy, eating a good amount of food, then arrive there in 2-3 months. I mean, and you guys want to pay me top dollar, I'll help you lose 15 pounds tonight. You wake up tomorrow 15, 17, 20 pounds leaner, sure. But you're not going to sustain it. So we want to show up there and let our body stage down so it recognizes that this is our new baseline. This is where we're happy and where we're healthy at, rather than it fighting to get back to where you were because you just dropped so fast. You know, the ghrelin and the leptin, the hunger and satiating hormones we have, they really need to come down with you, and a lot of those hormones and metrics lag behind your actual scale weight and your progress. So that's why the reverse diet's popular, slowly coming back up with calories if you've depleted so much. But that can sometimes even be worse than the cut. So my philosophy is stage down as slow as possible, 1/2 pound a week, 1 pound a week max. You know, unless you're really big, but still, you want to arrive there like, I'm not really even dieting. And you just look on the scale and you look in the mirror one day like, holy shit, I'm not eating ice cubes like I was previously. So yeah, I guess I'll wrap it there. Just the main point of this is the 1,000 calorie crazy diets. Let's get away from those. If we're gonna track, let's really track and stick to 500 max. And I don't even like more than a 500 calorie a day deficit. and I don't mind cutting weight at all. And a lot of people dread it. So yeah, it's not fun for anybody. We all only have a certain amount of willpower. Why would you set yourself up for failure? You know, I know we all want it tomorrow. We want to be getting super rich tomorrow, or you want to be super jacked tomorrow, or you want your nails done tomorrow, or you need your this tomorrow, or go on Amazon so I can get my protein powder tomorrow. We want convenience, fast, quick, and easy. That's this whole generation, or new generation, and kind of the whole capitalistic business idea and market is moving towards it. Look at all the big businesses in the past 10 years. Uber Eats, Netflix, Amazon. I'm sure I'm missing a couple more, but they're all designed for convenience, right? The quicker point A to point B. DoorDash, tips. People don't want to leave their house and don't want to spend extra time doing. Hey, I'm guilty of it too. I'd rather pay for, save 20, 30 minutes. Hell yeah. But everything is moving towards convenience, so don't allow your mindset to follow that path in fitness. That's fine for your groceries to get delivered or whatnot, but let's stay on the structured path and do the things that are required to elicit the results. It's not, more is not better. Less calories is not less fat at all. It's still going to be calories in, calories out. You're not breaking the laws of thermodynamics, but like I said, None of us have enough willpower to do that, unless you're truly stranded on an island and you don't have a choice. But not many of us want to put ourselves through that. Plus, I don't know, Google island survivor. I don't know. You look at some of these guys; they're completely emaciated. They look like prisoner of war rescue. It's horrible. It's horrible. So that medication, all those GLPs, put your body in that scenario. With a steep enough calorie day deficit, yeah, you're doing it to yourself too. So let's try and move away from that, I guess is what I'll say. And that 1,000 calorie deficit is not a flex at all. So stop flexing on people with that. I don't know. People tell it to me or say it to me like with an ego, like, yeah, it's cool. Like I'm bench pressing 3 plates type of tone. So it's like, nah, it's a recipe for failure. And yeah, break the current beliefs and all the stuff that's ingrained in your head over the last decade, because if you've done something for years and you're like, oh yeah, I know how to lose weight, I just do this and do that, and then it's like, if you knew how to do, why wouldn't you have the weight off yet, right? And it's like, so I think a lot of us need to toss the ego and realize if we knew the right way to do it, we would have arrived there and stayed there, not 20 pounds, 20 pounds, 20 pounds, 20 pounds, 20 pounds, right? So it's like I think I said this the other day, definition of insanity is repeating the same time or the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you've been doing the same shit for years and years and years and it hasn't worked, I don't know, try another approach. Do a quick Google search and see something different that might work for you. I'm not saying my methods say all be all. I believe in it enough to give people money back if it doesn't work, but I mean, do your research, pick what works best for you, and try something different. If the steep calorie deficits aren't working, change them up. This goes with anything. You know, if the dishes aren't getting cleaned if you put them in the dishwasher upside down, then why would you keep putting them in upside down? So, I know it sounds funny, but a lot of stuff like that is pretty simple. People run on emotions and what the scale says, what the mirror looks like, and it can lead to that for sure. So, I mean, I could ramble on this all day long, so I'll end it here. Hope you guys got something out of that. And maybe if you're working all day long hours, productive, you stop cranking your calories into the ground and actually find something that's sustainable you can work with, and you make slow and steady progress. Because the best thing we can do is arrive at our dream physique in 2 years and stay there, rather than arrive there in 3 months and come back to where we were and back and forth. And I mean, I've only done it a handful of times, yo-yoing, but some people that I've spoken to have done it 30, 40, 50 years. It's not a very good emotional spot to be in. So if that's you, don't allow it to continue that way. It doesn't have to be that way. There's other methods. And try them out. DM me on Instagram if you have any other questions or you want to go over anything. But maybe there's somebody out there that loves their 1,000 calorie a day deficit. I'll argue they're not tracking oils or sauces, but sure, there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to disagree with you. So yeah, I mean, I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys get some sort of value out of it and change your belief system, make you think. Just stay in the game is a good one to leave off on. And yeah, don't let life pass you by, and go with the flow is a fucking myth. Peace.